15 British traditions that wouldn't work anywhere else. The United Kingdom is often celebrated for its castles, literature, and historic cities. But what really makes Britain stand out are its quirky traditions, those wonderfully eccentric customs that confuse outsiders, yet feel perfectly natural to locals. They aren't just cultural curiosities, they're living rituals that say so much about the character of the nation. Some are centuries old, some are relatively modern, but all share one thing in common. They could only exist in Britain. From chasing cheese down hills to booing pantomime villains at Christmas, here are 15 British traditions that wouldn't work anywhere else, each one as charming, strange, and unmistakably British as the next. 15. Cheese rolling at Cooper's Hill. Nothing says quirky UK customs like the Cooper's Hill Cheese Rolling Festival. Held every May in Gloucestershire, this event sees competitors hurl themselves down an impossibly steep slope in pursuit of a wheel of double Gloucester cheese weighing up to 9 pounds. Spectators gather by the thousands to watch what is equal parts sport and slapstick comedy. Participants trip, tumble, and crash into one another, with sprains and bruises almost guaranteed, and the occasional broken bone adding to the chaos. And at the end of it all, the winner doesn't claim a trophy or medal, but the very cheese they've been chasing. This eccentric tradition has roots stretching back at least 200 years. Some historians suggest it may have begun as a pagan ritual welcoming spring and new growth. Others say it was a practical way for villagers to assert grazing rights on the common. Whatever its origins, it has grown into a globally recognised event, drawing contestants from countries as far away as Australia and Japan. Why wouldn't this work anywhere else? Because no health and safety authority in the world would sanction it. In Britain, however, its dangers are part of the charm. The event perfectly embodies the British knack for mixing community, comedy, and daredevil antics into one unforgettable day. Cheese rolling is a shining example of British traditions that wouldn't work anywhere else. Dangerous, hilarious, and loved precisely because it's so wonderfully ridiculous. 14. Pantomimes at Christmas. While many countries celebrate Christmas with festive plays or concerts, only in Britain is there the glorious mayhem of the pantomime. Known affectionately as panto, these theatrical productions take beloved fairy tales, Cinderella, Aladdin, Snow White, and reinvent them as over-the-top comedy spectaculars. At a panto, there are no rules of polite theatre. Villains are booed, heroes are cheered, and the audience shouts back at the cast with lines like, "He's behind you!" Outrageous dames, played by men in flamboyant dresses and makeup, add a layer of slapstick fun. Children are delighted, adults laugh at cheeky innuendo, and entire families leave smiling. The tradition dates back to the 16th century, influenced by Italian comedian dell'arte, but by the 19th century it had evolved into something uniquely British. Today, pantomimes remain one of the most popular holiday outings, often starring celebrities who bring extra sparkle to the stage. Would this succeed abroad? Probably not. In cultures where theatre is meant to be serious, the idea of heckling actors or encouraging children to shout from the seats would be frowned upon. The humour also relies heavily on wordplay and cultural references that don't translate well outside the UK. Yet in Britain, the pantomime is essential Christmas magic. It's one of the few remaining traditions where different generations laugh together year after year. That's why it earns its place on our list of 15 British traditions that wouldn't work anywhere else. 13. Guy Fawkes Night. Each year, on the 5th of November, Britain lights up the skies with fireworks, bonfires, and straw effigies of Guy Fawkes, the man who famously attempted to blow up Parliament in 1605. Known as Bonfire Night or Guy Fawkes Night, it commemorates the failure of the gunpowder plot. The tradition began with the observance of the 5th of November, Act 1605, requiring people to give thanks for King James I's survival. Although the law was repealed in 1859, the celebration endured, morphing into the fiery festival we know today. Modern bonfire night is equal parts history lesson and autumn carnival. Communities build towering bonfires, children wave sparklers, and families enjoy seasonal treats like treacle toffee, parking cake, and hot drinks to keep warm. Effigies of Guy Fawkes, called Guys, are often tossed onto the flames, while firework displays light the skies. Could this tradition take root elsewhere? Hardly. The idea of children building effigies of a historical traitor, parading them through town, and then burning them would seem macabre to most cultures. But in Britain, it feels perfectly natural, an eccentric blend of rebellion, remembrance, and revelry that has survived for over 4 centuries. This strange, fiery celebration is a hallmark of unique UK culture and one of the clearest examples of British traditions that wouldn't work anywhere else. 12. The changing of the guard. Few spectacles capture Britain's love of pageantry quite like the changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace. Officially called guard mounting, this ceremony sees the King's Guard, formerly the Queen's Guard, hand over duties to a fresh unit in a highly choreographed display of precision marching and military music. The Guards, dressed in their iconic red tunics and bearskin hats, perform with stoic discipline, even as thousands of tourists snap photos just feet away. Military bands often play traditional marches, but sometimes throw in surprising tunes, from film soundtracks to pop hits, adding to the delight. Other nations have ceremonial guards, but none elevate a routine change of duty to such theatrical grandeur. For Britain, the ceremony is about more than security. It's a symbol of continuity, tradition, and the monarchy's enduring role in national identity. In another country, such pomp might feel excessive. In London, it's an institution, drawing millions annually and serving as one of the great icons of UK culture. This is tradition as performance art, and it's why the changing of the guard remains one of the most distinctively British traditions. 11. Sunday roasts and Yorkshire puddings. If there's one meal that defines British traditions, it's the Sunday roast. This hearty feast typically includes roasted meat, beef, lamb, chicken, or pork, served with crispy potatoes, seasonal vegetables, stuffing, gravy, and, crucially, Yorkshire puddings. The Yorkshire pudding often puzzles outsiders. Despite the name, it isn't a dessert. It's a savoury, airy dish made from flour, eggs, and milk, designed to hold lashings of gravy. The earliest known recipe was published in 1747 by Hannah Glasse in The Art of Cookery. The roast itself has roots in the 15th century, when families would gather for a large meal after Sunday church services. Over time, it became a weekly ritual, a way to bring people together around the table. Today, it remains just as beloved, with pubs across Britain serving roast dinners every Sunday. Could it thrive elsewhere? Not easily. While other cultures enjoy weekend feasts, the combination of specific ingredients, timing, and ritual makes the Sunday roast uniquely British. Explaining Yorkshire puddings abroad usually results in confused stares. The Sunday roast is more than a meal. It's about comfort, tradition, and togetherness. It's why it remains one of the strongest UK customs and a defining tradition that wouldn't work anywhere else. 10. The village fête. On warm summer days, Britain's villages come alive with the charm of the fête. These community fairs fill fields with marquees, bunting, and stalls offering everything from homemade cakes and jams to second-hand books. Children play games like Hook a Duck, adults enter raffles and tombolas, and local bakers show off Victoria sponges in friendly competitions. You might see Morris dancers jingling their bells or even a tug-of-war across the village green. Elsewhere, such events might feel quaint or outdated, but in Britain, the village fête is a treasured institution. embodying values of community, charity, and tradition. It's proof that in an increasingly digital age, people still crave face-to-face connection and simple joys. This is one of the most wholesome, quirky UK traditions, a reminder that sometimes the old ways of gathering are the best. 9. Cricket and the tea break. Cricket is famously confusing to outsiders. Matches can last 5 days, and yet, after all that, they may end in a draw. But for Britons, cricket is part of the national soul, and the most uniquely British feature of the game is the tea break. During long matches, players pause not just for water, but for a full break featuring tea, sandwiches, and cakes. This reflects cricket's origins in the 16th century England, when the game was as much a social occasion as a sporting contest. Other nations play cricket too, but only in Britain is the tea break treated with such reverence. It's not an interruption, it's part of the tradition. Could this work in other sports? Imagine pausing a baseball or football game for tea and cucumber sandwiches. It would never catch on. But in Britain, it makes perfect sense, and fans wouldn't have it any other way. Cricket's tea break is one of those British traditions that wouldn't work anywhere else, embodying patience, civility, and eccentricity in equal measure. 8. Queuing. The queue may look ordinary, but in Britain it's practically sacred. While other countries line up too, nowhere is it treated with such reverence. To Britons, queuing isn't just a way to organise people, it's a moral code. Jump the queue, and you'll face icy glares, muttered disapproval, and perhaps even a polite but firm confrontation. Respecting the queue reflects national values of fairness, patience, and civility. Why wouldn't this work abroad? Because in many cultures, lines are more like loose clusters, and pushing to the front isn't taboo. In Britain, however, such behaviour is social heresy. The queue may be a small tradition, but it's one of the defining UK customs, a subtle yet powerful symbol of British identity. 7. Royal weddings and jubilees. Britain has always had a fascination with its royal family, and nowhere is this more evident than during royal weddings, jubilees, and coronations. When a royal milestone comes along, the entire nation seems to transform overnight. Streets are lined with Union Jack bunting, shop shelves overflow with souvenir mugs and tea towels, and communities organise street parties complete with tables of cakes, sandwiches, and endless pots of tea. The roots of these celebrations go back centuries, but the 20th and 21st centuries have brought them to dazzling prominence. The wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana in 1981 was watched by an estimated 750 million people worldwide. More recently, the weddings of Prince William to Catherine Middleton in 2011 and Prince Harry to Meghan Markle in 2018 drew global audiences of hundreds of millions. The Platinum Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth II in 2022 saw street parties across the UK, with residents of towns and villages sitting down together to mark 70 years of her reign. Why is this a uniquely British tradition? Because no other country combines monarchy with pageantry and popular participation in quite the same way. Nations with monarchs often celebrate quietly or formally. In Britain, royal occasions are communal, exuberant, and woven into national identity. For outsiders, it may seem puzzling that millions would stop to watch a carriage procession or bake cakes decorated with crowns. But for Britons, it's a chance to celebrate continuity, history, and a shared sense of belonging. That's why royal milestones are such a central part of UK culture, and one of the clearest examples of British traditions that wouldn't work anywhere else. 6. Pub culture. The British pub is more than just a place to grab a pint. It's a cultural cornerstone. Known as the local, the pub is where communities gather, where friendships are made, and where life's ups and downs are shared over drinks and conversation. Pub culture dates back centuries, with origins in Roman taverns and Anglo-Saxon alehouses. Many pubs still operating today are hundreds of years old, with low ceilings, creaky floorboards, and names steeped in history, like the Dog and Duck or Ye Old Cheshire Cheese. Some are rumoured to have hosted literary giants such as Charles Dickens or Samuel Johnson. What sets British pubs apart is their role as community hubs. Unlike bars elsewhere, pubs welcome people of all ages, families come for Sunday lunches, retirees gather for afternoon chats, and workers meet friends after a long day. Pub quizzes are a weekly ritual in many towns, offering a mix of trivia, laughter, and competition. Darts, pool, and even sing-alongs are part of the atmosphere. Could this model work elsewhere? Not really. Bars abroad often focus on nightlife, speed, and entertainment. They lack the pub's unique blend of warmth, tradition, and sense of belonging. The British pub has an unspoken code. Regulars know their spots, conversations flow easily, and there's always time for just one more. This is why pub culture stands out as one of the most defining UK customs. It's not just about drinking, it's about identity, community, and continuity. And it's precisely this balance of history and sociability that makes it one of those British traditions that wouldn't work anywhere else. 5. Afternoon tea. Few things are as elegant or as quintessentially British as afternoon tea. This refined tradition was introduced in the 1840s by Anna, Duchess of Bedford, who grew tired of waiting until late dinners and began inviting friends for tea, sandwiches, and light cakes in the afternoon. The idea spread quickly through high society and has since become an enduring staple of UK culture. A proper afternoon tea includes dainty finger sandwiches, scones with clotted cream and jam, and a selection of cakes and pastries, all served on tiered stands with china teapots. At London institutions like the Ritz or Claridge's, afternoon tea is an art form. Waiters in white gloves, string quartets, and chandeliers create a sense of timeless glamour. Yet it's also enjoyed more informally across Britain in village tea rooms, where it's about friendship and a shared pause in the day. Could afternoon tea translate elsewhere? It's unlikely. In faster-paced societies, spending 2 hours sipping tea and nibbling sandwiches feels impractical. In countries where tea isn't central to daily life, the ritual loses its meaning. Coffee dominates in much of the world, but in Britain, tea isn't just a beverage, it's a cultural cornerstone. Afternoon tea embodies the values of refinement, sociability, and a slower pace of life. It is one of the most iconic British traditions that wouldn't work anywhere else, combining elegance with comfort in a way that reflects the nation's character. 4. Morris dancing. With jingling bells on their shins, handkerchiefs waving and sticks clashing, Morris dancers are one of the most eccentric sights in Britain. This folk dance has been documented since at least the 15th century and is still performed today at village fêtes, May Day celebrations and folk festivals. Morris dancing groups, known as sides, don costumes of white shirts, ribbons, hats and bells, accompanied by traditional folk musicians. The dances vary in style, but they are all lively, rhythmic, and often performed outdoors on greens or in streets. To outsiders, Morris dancing can look baffling, even comical. But in Britain, it's cherished as a link to medieval heritage. It may not be mainstream, but it thrives as a living piece of quirky UK culture, preserved by enthusiasts and communities who value tradition. Would it succeed abroad? Probably not. Most cultures would dismiss it as too eccentric. But in Britain, where history and whimsy often mix, Morris dancing fits right in. It's another perfect example of British traditions that wouldn't work anywhere else. 3. The boat race. Every spring, the River Thames becomes the stage for one of Britain's most famous sporting rivalries, the Oxford versus Cambridge boat race. first held in 1829 and an annual event since 1856 with wartime breaks. It covers just over 4 miles of river between Putney and Mortlake. Tens of thousands line the banks to cheer on the rowers, while millions more watch on television. The race has become not just a sporting contest, but a national tradition, tied to prestige, heritage, and friendly competition between two of Britain's oldest universities. What makes it so uniquely British is the scale of attention. In most countries, a rowing competition between two universities would barely make the local news. In Britain, it's a headline event with global coverage. The race represents more than sport. It symbolises the country's reverence for tradition, academia, and continuity. The boat race is another of those British traditions that wouldn't work anywhere else, turning a niche sport into a grand spectacle watched worldwide. 2. Fish and chips on the seafront. While fish and chips are enjoyed internationally, only in Britain are they tied so strongly to the seaside experience. Imagine sitting on a windy promenade with a paper-wrapped bundle of golden fish and thick-cut chips, the smell of vinegar mixing with salty air as seagulls hover menacingly overhead. Fish and chips first appeared in Britain in the 1860s, quickly becoming a staple of working-class diets. For generations, families have made trips to seaside towns specifically to enjoy the ritual of eating fish and chips outdoors, rain or shine. In other countries, fried fish is usually served in restaurants on plates, but the British tradition of wrapping them in paper, now food safe, not newspaper, and eating them outdoors gives the meal a nostalgic charm that can't be replicated. This seaside ritual is one of the most beloved UK customs, connecting generations with the simple joy of greasy fingers, crispy batter, and the sea breeze. It's an everyday experience elevated to tradition, and one of those quirky British traditions that wouldn't work anywhere else. 1. Tea as the answer to everything. At the top of the list sits the most iconic of all British traditions, tea. To Britons, tea is far more than a drink. It's a coping mechanism, a gesture of kindness, and a cultural glue. Whether it's bad news, good news, or just a quiet moment, the response is always the same. Put the kettle on. Tea was first introduced to Britain in the 17th century and became a national staple in the 18th and 19th centuries. Even today, tea dominates. The UK consumes over 100 million cups a day, making it the most popular hot beverage in the country. In most parts of the world, tea is just one drink among many. In Britain, it's practically therapy in a cup. Offering tea means more than quenching thirst. It signals care, solidarity, and comfort. It's the first thing people reach for in a crisis and the ritual that begins countless conversations. Could this custom work elsewhere? Not to the same degree. Without Britain's history, climate, and cultural connection, tea is just a beverage. Here, it's identity. That's why tea is the ultimate example of British traditions that wouldn't work anywhere else. Simple, humble, yet powerful enough to define a nation. From royal pageantry to seaside fish suppers, from centuries-old Morris dancing to the everyday comfort of tea, these are the traditions that define Britain. They may seem eccentric to outsiders, but they endure because they reflect the nation's heart. Truly, these are 15 British traditions that wouldn't work anywhere else. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe and turn on